The life that I have is all that I have. The life that I have is yours. The love that I have of the life that I have is yours and yours and yours. A sleep I shall have, a rest I shall have, yet death will be but a pause. For the peace of my years in the long green grass will be yours and yours and yours. Amen. The words written for Tzabo by her French husband. There's a lovely film made with Virginia McKenna taking the lead role. She was an SOE, Special Operations Executive, in the Second World War, and shot at Ravensbrüch for spying, essentially, by the Germans. When I am saying yours, I'm thinking of God. So I found those words when I was maybe 17 years old, and I've had them with me ever since. I'm now 65. I think they're very beautiful. Simple words. It's a lovely film. Speaks to eternity. I've been making these films now for some 13 years. Over 3,500 of them now on 6 channels on YouTube since the early spring of 2008. Well, I do it. Why do I do it? Well, why did Vincent van Gogh paint? Why did Rembrandt paint? I've just been going through some of my old photographs and had some shots of some Rembrandts and some paintings by Vincent van Gogh. Well, because they're beautiful. So why does an artist paint? Why did Beethoven? I mean, I'm always listening to Beethoven. The piano sonatas, especially 32 piano sonatas. Why? What? Why? One does, I suppose, what one's gifts allow. I have the ability to speak, I hope, reasonably coherently on whatever subjects, but I speak as a Christian. I am a Christian. I try to be a better one. An absolute part of Christ's teaching is take up your cross and follow me each day. So obviously we're human and we get things wrong, as it were, but one aspires to get them right the next time. Practice makes perfect. We're more autumnal now in England, but still the trees haven't turned. It's right. In fact, this is the 30th of September, so Thursday the 30th, 2001, and the bulk of the trees haven't turned yet. So very late in the season, really. This global warming thing, I think, is definitely affecting the climate. There's a big conference coming up, isn't there, about it all? Well, of course we are. getting on for 8,000 million human beings are bound to affect the atmosphere and all the rest of it. But God says, go forth and multiply, so ultimately we're all in God's hand in manus tuus, Domine. The actual full quote to that is commendam meum spiritum, so those are the words Christ would have said on the cross, so in manus tuus, Domine, but commendam meum spiritum, so I commit my spirit to you, O Lord. If we have this love of God within us, in our hearts, in our souls, our minds, in us, then we can move mountains. And to me, the mountains Christ is talking about when he says that are absolutely the mountains people erect within themselves against God, more often than not, rejecting you, my Lord, rejecting the whole meaning of life, for heaven's sake. It's all around us here in Western Europe. I'm in England, obviously, but most of the European countries now, I've lived in France, Spain, Italy, been to Scandinavia or Sweden. Not Germany. I'm afraid I just can't be doing, I've passed through Germany, but I can't be doing with the Germans myself. But there's a huge decline in attendance at organised, in those countries, Sweden is more Protestant, but or primarily Protestant, I think, whereas Spain, France, Italy, Belgium I've been to as well, Holland, I've lived in Holland, that's more Protestant too, but the Spain, France, Italy are predominantly Roman Catholic, and the youngsters simply don't go. They're voting with their feet. They're rejecting the big organised church, the Roman Catholics, and replacing it with what, for heaven's sake? That's the problem. Well, I too have rejected becoming a priest through the Church of England, here just nearby, St Albans, at the Cathedral and Abbey Church of St Albans. Utterly rejected. There are two main reasons. And likewise, I've rejected becoming a Benedictine monk through the Roman Catholics. So those are my two sort of main strands. I listen on a regular basis to Gregorian chant, sung midnight vigils by Carthusian monks à la Grande Chartreuse in France, middle south of France, in the mountains there. And it's very beautiful and prayerful, meditative, contemplative. And that Latin, it's in Latin, they read the readings in French, has been in use in much the same form for certainly hundreds of years. If I'm right, the Vulgate by St. Jerome was translated in around, I think, 600-700 AD, or maybe not exactly right on that date. So he translated the earlier texts, I'm forgetting the stuff. Pentateuch. Help! I do know it, but it just slips in and out of one's. I'm not a biblical scholar or a scholar of any of this stuff. I kind of latch on to certain salient facts. Martin Luther published his 95 Theses on October the 31st, 1539, so that was sort of the big event beginning the whole Protestant movement. But to be a Christian, you don't need all of this stuff. You simply accept the love of God through Christ within you. And then, because in the same way, I don't know, I love a beautiful rose, for instance, beautiful English rose, let's say. Well, if you're an old boy and you've been growing roses all your life, you don't know, you can't just sort of explain. You just know what to do to produce beautiful roses. You know how to nurture them, how to prune them properly, how to feed them properly, when to water, when not to water, when to watch out for an infestation of green fly and a disease or whatever it may be. Likewise for a farmer. They say the best manure, if you like, is in a farmer's boots. So I lived in Holland for a while, and of course they have these huge fields of tulips over there. And especially I can remember on a Sunday, this old boy was just walking his lines of tulips, just looking out for any troubles. Another time they were planting aardappels. Karotten, aardappels are potatoes. Karotten, carrots this was, and potatoes, aardappel. And again, the old man, so I think his youngsters were doing the work, or younger men anyway, but he was at the end of the lines, just tucking in that last few potatoes that had escaped, just to get that extra little bit out of the crop. You know, and they know instinctively, an old farmer will know, feel it in their bones sort of thing, what the weather's up to and when to plant, and you know, when you put your animals out and they can take the weather or not and all this sort of stuff. Because you love it, that's the point I'm making. So, with that love of God through Christ within one, you seek stuff out. You make a point of following something up, if it's of interest, as a Christian. To me, the world is forever galloping on about its own way, and there has to be an earthly way, but the great sorrow for me is in the West, by and large, people do not put God first in their lives. The two commandments, so love God, love your neighbor as yourself. And people simply do not live like that. Religious Jews, the Orthodox Jews, pray something called the Shema Yisrael morning and evening, every day. Blessed, the Lord is one, blessed be the Lord, Adonai, Elohim Echad. That is right living, right thinking, right being, but just ordinary. It's not highfalutin, exclusive behavior. And seeking to put Christ's teaching into practice. Amen. I've got my old candle lit. Won't burn the house down. Quite safe. Candly candle. Cheerio.